Despite being in the game since day one, everybody seems to forget about this ally attack champion. So we're going to take a look at it. Let's get into it. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am Matt Capper and there's another video on Raid Shadow Legends, and that's right, another edition of I built them so you don't have to. Today I want to talk about one of the most under-talked about, forgotten champions in Raid Shadow Legends. But if you're in need and you need some help in the arena and you're in those lower tiers, early, mid, even late game, I'm going to show you how CATACOMB Counselor can help you out. So without further ado, here he is, CATACOMB Counselor. Ghoulish Feeding. Attacks one enemy 3 times. Heals the champion by 20% of the damage inflicted. Grotesque Strength. Has a 50% chance of placing a 25% increased attack buff on this champion for 2 turns, then attacks one enemy. Army of Death. Teams up with 3 random allies to attack a single enemy. The allies joining the attack will use their default skills. Reality is, here he is, CATACOMB Counselor, as I have him built. As you can see in Stoneskin, very slow, but that's okay. He's doing exactly what we need him to do. You can see he's only got a pair of skills. He's got the ally attack, which is 3 random allies. The allies using their default skills, of course. Attacks one enemy 3 times, heals his champion 20% of the damage inflicted, and a 50% chance placing a baby increase attack, and then attacks one enemy. And just so we have his masteries, maybe Giant Slayer might be the better way to go for this if we're going to use him strictly for the arena. But I wanted to test him out in multiple places, so this is what we've done. A chance for a random cooldown, that won't be a bad if you're taking them into PvE scenarios, which we will. And then of course War Master, you know, the usual stuff you have for an attack-based champion in the Masteries. As for his total stats here, he's got 5741 attack, 251 crit damage. I know he's at 99 crit rate, don't at me, I know. But doesn't need accuracy, which is nice. We have a little bit of resistance, but that's kind of incidental. And actually more health than I expected him to have. But where are we going to use this guy? Well, the obvious choice is the arena. But before we take him into the arena, I want to do some damage testing with him. So let's just head over to one of the dungeons and we'll do some damage testing with CATACOMB Counselor. Alright, so here's the bevy of testers. We're going into Dragon 10, because why not? And you may have noticed I did bring in Farrakhan the Fat. I'm going to show you all the builds of these champions, like a real quick overview of what they have, just so you have an idea of kind of what we're comparing each other to. So there's the debuff. Now, we're talking about single target attack here. And when it comes to single target attack, you can see 215. She's got quite the hit. Now, this is an AoE, but I brought a leak in for the single target attack as well. You can see 246. His single target is a attacks one enemy, and 78, so obviously a lot less, but HP burn, poisons, you know, he's got a whole kit here. And then his single target attack, 19, 19, 22, so 60,000. Let's back out and show you the differences in damage. So he's an attack-based champion. Obviously, that's not his forte. You can see that 60,000, 92 for Farrakhan, 246 for Alika, 233 for Whisper. Yeah, it's obvious that there's a disparity here, and he's not really going to hit hard, which, and I'll talk about it in a little bit, is a big issue for me about him. Let's replay this and show you kind of what the ally attack looks like. And I think this is probably what most people's gripe is, but it's actually not mine. I mean, it isn't abnormal to have less than full team ally attack. Not every champion has that. In fact, even Kreela, one of the quote-unquote better fusion or fragment champions, doesn't take everyone with her, and it's one of the big gripes about using her. Now, Farrakhan doesn't take himself, so keep that in mind, right? So we're gonna run. We'll hit Laberga here, just to get through these champions, and then we'll do the ally attack. So if we do a ally attack and Taya, you see everyone's gonna take a shot, and then he can do the ally attack here. And the difference being is, luckily we got the same thing. So in this reality, he's actually a little bit better in just being able to overall do damage. In both cases, Farrakhan was not included, which really made that a perfect test. And you see there's a little bit difference, a little bit of disparity in the damage. But here's the problem. Farrakhan added a crit damage to Catacomb Counselor, and to the rest of the team. So the reality is, everything about Farrakhan's kit is simply pretty much better. And that's one of the big problems. You see the damage isn't really a big deal. We can do A1. I don't think we have to reset, do we? No, they'll get attacked. We'll do it one more time for the A1s, but again, you're seeing Farrakhan did no damage because he never hit. But the reality is, when you're doing an ally attack, Farrakhan's not bringing himself, but he is bringing damage. Catacomb Counselor is bringing himself, but could skip anyone. In this case, he actually skipped probably the best one to skip, the one with the least amount of A1 damage. We'll talk more about it at the end of the thing, but I do want to show him where his obvious best use is. Now, you can use this guy in Faction Wars. Ally attack's never a bad thing in Dungeons, especially if you have any AoE, that sort of deal. But I'm going to show him with a little bit difference. Many thanks to Murder Inc., who put out a video with Phoenix, and how Phoenix can kind of be used in today's day and age. We don't want to do against that douche. Well, okay, let's do this one here. Perfect team to do this against. Here's the team I have. Now, this is just one way of using Catacomb Counselor if you don't have any better options. And we'll show you here. All these champions are in Stone Skin. That's the key. Now Catacomb's in a 4-piece. Everyone else is in a 6-piece. So this is a go second team. You're expecting to get hit a lot. You're expecting them to go first. Then it's your turn. I mean, sure. I mean, might as well use it, right? And then here we get to do this ally attack, and we can take out whoever we think we want to. And that's using someone like Phoenix to do that block revive as part of a kind of an overall team strategy. And that's really, honestly, that's where his use is in the arena. There's no problem using him as an ally attack because he only brings 4 people, but that's all you need in the arena. And I think this is a really easy slow tune that you can build out with your Stone Skin. All right, let's try this team. Again, we're just trying to let them go first. We're going to go back in. You could go the traditional, the traditional Blender team, Blender comp with this. It's going to work the same way as the other one did. Now, what we want to do is we want to get rid of Trunda because that's who we're scared of, and that's how that perfect. I put Phoenix in third because he kept killing people, which sounds like a great thing, or rather, our team kept killing people before Phoenix would get a chance, and so he wasn't block reviving. But third seems to be really good for him in most cases. There you go. I mean, how good that's going to work depends on the rest of your team. I could bring in a bunch of AoEs like a traditional Blender. Everyone in Stone Skin with a Phoenix, hard-hitting A1s. I could bring in Alika in a Stone Skin if I wanted. Her A1, when it hits that second time, is actually a harder hitting. So if you've got a really tough team and you're trying to take them down one at a time, that's an interesting way of doing it. Obviously, that team going second, it predicates on Beware. If you have a Madame Saris or a Hymar or any other type of strip champion, I like using Sathalia a lot, where that go second team might actually be your own doing. But that's a simple way to use them. Simple way to use Catacomb Counselor. This isn't going to be a really long video, but let's talk about him in final thoughts now. My final thoughts on Catacomb Counselor. It is, this is obviously a champion who's been power crept He was kind of used a little bit at the very beginning when there wasn't a lot of counterattack champions. Not that there's a whole ton now, but every single one of them does better. Farrakhan the Fat is the closest one to him in comparison, where Farrakhan and him both bring 4 allies. Farrakhan does not bring himself, whereas Catacomb brings himself but ignores one of your allies. Either way, both usable in the arena. Arguably, Catacomb Counselor would be the better one to use in arena because you're getting 4 attackers instead of 3. But at the same time, you use Farrakhan in something like Hydra, and he's actually bringing 5 champions to Catacombs 4. But the real crux of it is that Farrakhan has a complete kit. Let's take a look at Farrakhan the Fat's kit before we talk about what's wrong with Catacomb Counselors. Fundamentally, that should be looked at for a champion that has such a unique and important skill in the current meta in all areas of the game. What Farrakhan Fat does differently is even though he's not attacking, he brings damage on his ally attack. He increases the crit damage and crit rate on a 4-turn cooldown of all allies except this champion for 3 turns, and then everyone but this champion will attack that target enemy. This is like he says, you know, I'm not coming with you. I'm the weakest hitter, but I'm giving each of you an increased crit damage. That works. On top of it, deflects 20% of all incoming damage this champion receives onto all allies. It helps survive him. It's like a reverse ally protect. The real fancy thing is put him in a guardian set and see what happens. Then on top of that, his A2 has a poison, sorry, 2 poisons, 5%, and an HP burn. Great for the clan boss, great for Hydra, great for anywhere you need him. And then on top of that, as if the rest wasn't good enough, you have a 50% one book chance for a decreased defense debuff. Amazing clan boss champion, amazing arena champion, usable 3v3, PvP, PvE. Farrakhan's great. So that's the closest thing we have to compare Catacomb Counselor. Now, let's take a look again at Catacomb Counselor's things. So he's got joins up with 3 random allies to attack a single enemy. The allies join the attack using default skills. Nothing extra, nothing special, 4-turn cooldown. No increased crit rate, no increased crit damage. And this skill does not hit hard. We saw it already in the damage testing. It doesn't hit hard. This skill attacks one enemy 3 times, heals the champion by 20% of the damage inflicted. Does not hit hard. Was hitting for less than Farrakhan's was hitting, and certainly less than the other champions who are attack-based champions, hitting with Alika and Whisper. Is A1. We didn't test it, but you could see it on the ally attack when Farrakhan went. He does not hit hard. He hit 100,000 combined on 2 hits, one of them with an increased crit damage buff on himself from Farrakhan. So you're looking at 60-40, right? Maybe 35-65. Those numbers aren't impressive. They're very weak. And so here's the deal. You've got someone who's got a speed of 92. You got someone with a 1400 attack, but his multipliers are obviously absolutely asininely low. And I don't care if not every champion has to bring what Farrakhan brings, but Catacomb Counselor could bring damage. He is an attack-based nuker who brings allies with him. He has nothing special about his kit but that. So please let him bring damage. His multiplier on his A2 and A3 should be, and A1 frankly, should be significantly higher. They should be doing double to triple the damage they currently are. And they're not, and that, my friends, is what I believe is woefully wrong with them. Let me bring up the stats just so you know exactly what we're talking about. Now, I forgot to show you, but Farrakhan the Fat and him were in near identical gear. I actually used Hell Hades Optimizer and capped the max level so that they both would be using the same thing. Catacomb Counselor had Cruel gear. Farrakhan actually had what's the one with the 10% and the speed? The new one, the gear you can do in the Forge. But honestly, there's not enough gear in the world to make up the lack of damage he was doing as compared to his any of his compatriots. So let's take a look at here. And again, the ally attack itself isn't the problem. I have no problem with this being 3 random allies instead of all team or 4 or whatever. It's a different kit, but it needs to do damage, and it doesn't. And this should do the damage, not the A1. This should do the damage, and instead it doesn't. It takes his A1 damage, which is a 3.5. To put that in perspective, our good friend Alika. I think it's a 4.2. And her A2 is a 6.3. A 4.2 and a 6.3. And her A2 ignores defense. His is a 1.8 times 3, which is about a 5.2. So a full point less on his attack. You could tell he just wasn't doing a lot of damage. Now he can do some damage, but I think for a guy like this, first off, I would make his A3 the usable skill with a 6.0 on it for the ally attack. I would change his A2 to a 5, at least a 5.8, 6.0, and his A1 should be at least a 4.2, right? Because Alika, her advantage, she gets 50% of the time, she gets a second shot at that damage. And I just think it would only be fair if you made a champion like this who could still hang. Why would we use Catacomb over Farrakhan? Because of the damage. Why would you use Farrakhan over Catacomb? Because of the utility. But right now, if you have two of them, I'll tell you right now, there's only one champion you should be choosing, and that's Farrakhan the Fat. Catacomb Counselor should stay in the vault. I wanted to bring him out because he's been around forever. People don't normally do videos on him. So there it is. Unfortunately, it's not good news. He is an in case of emergency break glass champion. That is it. But there it is. Those are my thoughts on him. What are your thoughts on Catacomb Counselor? By being too harsh, do you think there's a better way they could tool his kit to allow him to compete in today's day and age with the other ally attack champions? Let me know in the comments down below. But most importantly, please, as always, please be kind, be safe, and we'll see you in the next video.